The monthly meetup for March was on a topic that I am very passionate about because I feel it is so important to talk about this topic because it impacts us so much. And that topic is stress. How stress impacts us as parents, impacts our children, impacts our behavior and patience level, as far as when our stress and well being is being compromised. We show up to challenging moments with less patience and less ability to come to these challenging moments with a response that we want to. If we are coming from an empty bucket, that's going to be very hard. And often we are coming from an empty bucket because we are dealing with a lot of stress and overwhelm in our lives. And stress also impacts our children, especially their behavior. Over the past 20 years working with children, I have seen how much our kids are impacted when they are feeling stressed and overwhelmed, and their ability to have self-control in that moment, to respond in a way that's not with aggression or respond in a way that is appropriate. Our kids can't do that when their nervous systems are being taxed and are overwhelmed. Okay. And most of our kids with neurological disorders, I have found, tend to be under a lot of stress. But unfortunately, it's the norm. Their behavior and how they react and respond to everyday situations is so normal. We don't really look at just how stressed they are because this is their normal way of being. But our kids really are under a lot of stress. I'm going to read to you the signs of stress, and I want you to think of how many of these signs describe your child each day. Let's see. Changes in mood, changes in behavior or physical appearance, physical changes such as muscle tension, sometimes frequent headaches, stomach aches, trouble sleeping, trouble eating, lack of energy. Emotional changes caused by chronic stress can include nervousness, anxiety, loss of enthusiasm about things, anger or hostility towards others, withdrawal, feelings of helplessness, and all of these are kids face, right? They withdraw from situations that they may find threatening. They're nervous about situations. They're constantly scanning for danger. They're not able to come to situations using the executive functions here because they're in fight or flight. They're using the part of the brain, the brainstem that's responsible for fighting, flight, fight, flight, or freeze. So when they come to situations and we want them to problem solve and think of good ways of behaving and dealing with the challenge, if they're in a state of stress and overwhelm, they're not going to be able to do that. They're going to think, how can I run away from this situation or freeze, not do anything, or fight my way out? This is a reality many of our kids are facing in challenging moments. And sometimes we are facing these same challenges. How often are we so stressed and overwhelmed sometimes that we have a challenging situation that we are fighting back and yelling at the situation, our kid or whatever, freezing, just shutting down because we can't take anymore, or running away, distracting ourselves on the computer or social media. And so we can cope with the situation by just running away from it because that's all the energy we have left in us is to escape. This is a problem for us and for our kids. This is why stress is a topic that is so important to me because we must address this for us and for our kids. So let's talk a little bit about stress in relation to our children, okay? When our child is feeling stressed, they are going to typically not respond or react in a way we want them to, okay? And most of us, for our goals for our kids, is we want them to be healthy, we want them to be happy. So how do we help them to feel less stressed? Well, part of it is just those basic functions, prevention, right? What impacts our stress level and our patience level? Our state of well-being, right? Are we getting enough sleep? Or are we coming to the day exhausted? So our state of well-being, how we feel, how much energy we have when we're tired and come to a challenging situation feeling tired, are we more likely to respond in a loving manner or not so loving manner, right? So energy, fatigue, well-being in that respect. And emotions, right? If we come to a stressful situation and we're feeling happy and good about our day, about ourselves in the moment, and a stressful event comes, and we are approaching a stressful event, if we're in this state of appreciation, of love, of gratitude, that challenging moment, we're going to handle much differently than if we're in a state of resentment, frustration, guilt, shame about what our child is or isn't doing, right? These lower emotions are going to impact us and our ability to handle those challenging moments. So, our state of well being, both emotionally and physically, impacts our ability to be resilient in the moment. Same with our kids. Our kids are feeling happy, right? They balance between doing things they enjoy versus doing things that are more challenging. Our state of well being, us and our kids, is so important, that emotional component. So, we know that's one thing that impacts us as far as handling stressful moments with resiliency and help us to not feel as stressed, right? If our state of well-being, emotional health, physical health is being taken care of. The second thing that impacts us during challenging moments as we show up to them are our mindset, our beliefs, what we believe about the situation. For instance, I often tell the story about my son, who, when we were when they were younger, so my kids at the time were, I think, 3 and 5. And my youngest son, who was 3, loved cable cars. My oldest son, who was 5, had a lot of balance issues and challenges with his eyes, and he felt very insecure when his feet left the ground. So anything like swings or movement that his feet were off the ground caused him to feel stressed. Okay, so there was a neurological component to that stress response. So when he saw a cable car, he would become stressed because he was fearful of it because of his challenges. My 3-year-old would see a cable car and would be excited and couldn't wait to get on it. Okay, so as you see, same thing, but 2 different responses because of the mindset. One had the mindset of, I'm going to have fun when I get on that. And the other child had that mindset of, I am so scared, I'm going to feel insecure and unsafe on that, so I'm not going to get on it. So we have to remember that our beliefs towards something, and our beliefs may be warranted to keep us safe, right? But our beliefs to something will impact it, how stressful that situation is to us. And then the other part of that is the knowledge. Okay, so we have state of well-being, mindset, our belief towards something is going to make it either less stressful, more stressful. Okay, and the third thing is that knowledge piece of how to approach that challenging situation. Okay, so we may have 2 parents and their kids are having meltdowns. One parent may have taken a behavioral redirecting course and she has the knowledge of how to approach that situation and tools, where the other parent may not have the additional training and knowledge on how to handle that situation. So who is going to be more stressed in that moment? The parent with the tools of how to handle it, or the parent that doesn't have the tools, right? So our ability to handle that situation or have the tools and knowledge to handle that situation impacts how stressful it will be, right? So the parent is probably a lot more stressed who doesn't have those tools versus the one that does. So knowing those 3 components that can make a situation more stressful, knowing that, let's reverse it and see how can we help, all right? So the first thing is that well-being piece. So if we want to make life less stressful, we need to start looking at how we can help improve our well-being. A few things you can do are sleep. And I know many of you are like, I tried everything, I can't get my kid to sleep. There are, there are other classes that I go into more in depth with how to help support sleep, but just that sleep component, if you can start to look at ways to get better sleep, that is one key component to well-being, is having that restful moment so your nervous system has time to just rest, rejuvenate. Okay, so that part of well-being, and doing things to have fun, right? Giving those moments to feel joy. So those two things are one of my key things to helping with well-being. This well-being spectrum, I think it's really interesting. I'd like to know, where do you find yourself living? Are you more in that constant low mood, exhausted, poor sleep, removed? Is your kid in this state? Do you feel maybe you're anxious, tired, depressed, poor sleep, hopelessness? Are you struggling? Is your kid struggling? Surviving. Are you in the spectrum of surviving? Worried a lot, irritable, sad, distracted, withdrawn, feeling depleted? Or thriving, feeling positive about things, having those challenges, but coming to them in a calm, present state? Are you performing and sleeping well? Are you at ease? Are you trusting that each one of these challenges you're facing, you're going to find that solution, you're going to get help, and you're going to get through it? Most of us are not on this side of the spectrum. And how about excelling? Feeling joyful, energetic, high performance, right? This spectrum, unfortunately, most of us are on the left side. And so knowing this, it is very important to start looking at where our well-being is for us and for our kids, right? So addressing the well-being. So that second part is that mindset, okay? How our mind impacts our ability to show up in certain moments. In this diagram, you see mind's resiliency to stressful events. On the top, to increase your resiliency, right? Feelings of emotions, joy, love, appreciation. When we're feeling these emotions, our resilience in the moment and challenging moments increases. A lot of you are probably like, what? I don't even remember what these emotions are like. Most of us, because we are on that other side of the well-being spectrum. And then the other side, focusing on what is going well, doing things that bring you joy, right? That increases resiliency when your mind is focusing on the good more than the bad. How often as parents are we focusing on what's going well than what's not going well? And sometimes our kids, okay? So this is just an illustration of how we can increase, okay, with knowing what our mindset and how we perceive things, right? One is our emotional state of being coming to this situation, and also where our thoughts are, right? Focusing more on the positive than the negative. And then what decreases our resilience is focusing on what is wrong all the time. And with our kids, how often are we focusing on what our kids can't do? First, what they can, right? Doing something that you hate. How often does parents, I know, gosh, I hate laundry, I hate cleaning, right? And how often we're spending time doing things that we don't like and feeling resentment or anger towards it, versus doing things we like, or even doing those things we don't like, but making a spin on it so at least it's a little bit more enjoyable? Not often, right? And then another thing that decreases our resilience is that fear, worry, guilt, shame, those emotions. So our mindset and our emotions impact us during these stressful events. The illustration I gave with the cable car. So my son's fear and belief that he would be in danger if he went on that cable car, right? That evoked a stress response. So it's being mindful of what our beliefs are in the moment that's causing us to feel stressed. The third thing is the knowledge and the tools, right? How to handle those situations, having a toolbox where in those challenging moments, you are able to handle them in a way that you feel good about. So this is where I encourage you to take some parenting classes. I know a lot of us feel that if we're taking a parenting class, then we don't know how to parent. Absolutely not. You're just you're growing your skills. Our kids did not come with manuals, right? I have taken 3 different parenting classes. One because I wanted to do the same disciplinary approaches as the school was using, and they were using conscious discipline approach within their curriculum to support children's behaviors at that school. And I wanted to have, and they encouraged us to have the same model of approaching children's situations and development. So I took training, I took courses with that. I've taken other classes just as a therapist, trying to help my own children that I was working with through behaviors. And then I didn't even think I needed this class, but a few years ago, I had friends who had taken this class. I said, I don't need any more instruction. But when I took it, I'm like, wow, these are things I never even considered and that I still use today. And I'm so grateful for having those tools. So there are many different parenting classes. I offer some, but there's other ones out there. So getting those tools so you're handling those situations and everyday challenges with those tools to respond in the way you want to. So back to stress. So how can we help ourselves and our kids? Take care of your well-being. Look at those beliefs and see how can you modify those beliefs so the event isn't as stressful. And how can you get those tools? If you want to continue addressing this topic more in depth with me, I highly recommend you join the Empowered Parent Series, which will be launching April 12th. And we go through all of this. We take a deep dive into well-being, a deep dive into stress, a deep dive into these tools. So there's many layers to it. So if you want to take that next step, I highly recommend you join. But you can do this too. I mean, if you wanted to take the well-being approach and you have those strategies, please use them, because stress is something that impacts us as parents on so many levels, and it impacts our kids. I hope this helped you. I hope this gave you a little bit of understanding of stress and what we can start doing to minimize stress by prevention, taking care of our well-being, doing more fun things. And if you want to dive deeper, I hope you join me. So next month's topic in April is how to increase our children's independence while also helping them. Sometimes as parents, I know me too, we always want to help our kids, but sometimes by helping them, we're actually hurting their ability in them learning the skills to approach a situation, to problem solve through a difficult task. So balance between helping our children and also facilitating independence. So we're going to talk about that in our April's monthly meetup. So I hope you enjoy that. I hope you found this short talk beneficial. And if you want to take a deeper dive into the well-being and all the other aspects that I touched upon, I hope you enjoy the Empowered Parent series. I'll send you more information on that. Thank you.